All right, welcome everyone. If you don't know who I am, welcome, especially to you. I'm Dr. Gretchen. I'm a physical therapist and multiple sclerosis certified specialist, and I specialize in helping people with MS get stronger, get better balance, better mobility, more ease in your daily activities through MS-specific functional exercise, excuse me, while also using neuroplasticity techniques. So today, what we're going to be discussing is how to appropriately use mobility aids. So often, people are suggested a mobility aid or given a mobility aid by their doctors or someone on their healthcare team. Or maybe you just feel like, oh, I feel like I need a mobility aid, I'm just going to go buy one. But they aren't taught how to use them and how to fit them to you. And those things are hugely important in making sure that you're using it most effectively, that you don't become dependent on it, and that you're using it safely. So I'm going to review how to use a rollator, a cane, and trekking poles. So those are the three that we're going to be reviewing. So let me know if you have any questions as we get going. Okay, so we are going to start with a rollator, and the reason for that is because in my mind, a rollator is easier to train because both hands are on the rollator, so we don't really have to worry about what do our arms do as we're walking, because we know our arms just stay on the rollator. We just have to walk forward. But one thing that is very important for the rollator is how do we make sure that it fits you, that the height is correct, and how much weight do we put through the rollator? So let's start with fitting it, with the size. Now you'll see I am not wearing shoes right now. If you don't wear shoes in your home, then it's important that when you are sizing any of your mobility aids to you, you're not wearing shoes. If you do more often than not wear shoes, make sure you're wearing shoes when you're fitting your aids. If there are times when you wear shoes and times where you don't, you might want to have two different fittings for your mobility aid if possible. So this is how to fit a rollator to you and your body. I'm going to come up a little closer. So what you want to be looking for is stand up, ideally with your best posture. Even if you normally are hinged forward, stand up tall and then lower your hands. From here, you're going to kind of, I like to think of like clinging my wrists, pushing my wrists out to the handles. And what you want to see is that this is actually a little too short for me. Let me come in even closer. So what you ideally want is your wrist bones to be hitting the arm, the handle. So this for me is a little short. Ideally, I'm just gonna bend down a little. Ideally, it would be about here. And then this would be too high because my bones are lower. Now, sometimes with mobility aids, there isn't a perfect fit. You might be a little high or a little low. There's no setting where it's your exact wrist bones. If that's the case, try walking with both and then see what feels best for you. So for me, this is too low. So I need to raise it just a little bit. So for most rollators, what you're going to do is there's some type of button on the back near the handles where you're going to press and either raise or lower. Okay, now let's reassess. I'm going to come closer to you. Perfect. Slightly high, but for the most part, that feels better. I can feel my bones. I once got the question of, how do I tell where my wrist bones are if I can't see them? Great question. If you're wondering that, just wave. And that crease where your wrist is going back and forth, that's about where your wrist bones are. If you touch that crease and then drop down towards your elbow just a little bit, that's where that wrist bone is. That's where you're looking to hit the handle. So now, with that said, that is, according to the Physical Therapy and Mobility Aids textbook, that's how you want to fit your rollator to you. With that said, if you have been a rollator user for years and you've never done it this way, then you might resize your rollator so that it fits you and it feels very unstable, very off-center, not safe. If that's the case, mobility aids are meant to help you feel safer. Go back to what you were doing before. So all of this is meant to help guide you, but every person is going to be different. Please don't assume that if it's because it's what I told you to do, it's going to be perfect for you, even if you feel unstable. That is not the case. Okay, so now we know how to fit the height of the rollator to us. And again, you could do it with shoes on, without shoes on, totally your call. Now, how much weight should we be putting through the mobility aid? Ideally, as little as possible. And this is going to be true for all of the other mobility aids as well. The more weight you're putting through it, the more likely you will become dependent on it for two reasons. One, you're training your muscles that you need to use it. And the more weight you put on it, the less work the rest of your body has to do, the less balance it requires. But number two, you're training your brain that you need to put 100% of your body weight or 80%, 70, whatever it is, through the aid in order to walk. So that likely over time just gets worse and worse. So in an ideal world, you would put no more than 50% of your body weight through the mobility aid. Right now, that might feel fine for you. You might be thinking, that's fine, I only put maybe 20% through my mobility aid. Or it might feel like, she's crazy, I need to put 90% through my aid or I can't walk. Again, make this personalized for you. If you need 90%, the goal is safety, you do you. But if possible, if you feel like, oh man, I'm putting way more than 50%, a great exercise you can do could be to stand at your mobility aid, and if you're putting 80% through it, try to put 75. Try to take a little bit of weight off of it. Over time, maybe a few weeks or months later, maybe 70%. Then maybe 65, then 60, to the point where eventually it's 50 or less. Again, safety is the number one thing, but that's what you want to be thinking about as you're working to become less dependent on the mobility aid. Now, in terms of how do you walk forward with a mobility aid, specifically rollator, this is the easiest one, which is why we did it first. What you want to do, make sure the brakes are off, you've got the right height, you're standing up with your best posture, and you're going to just walk the way you normally would, either with a step through gait pattern that I'm doing right now, where one leg comes through, then the other leg comes through, or a step two pattern, which is when you step, then the other leg comes to it. Step, come to. Those are the two different types of steps. But your arms, pretty simple. They're just holding on as lightly as possible to the rollator. Okay, let me know, we're gonna move on to a different one, but let me know what questions you have about that first. How are instructions similar and different for an upright rollator? Great question. One question that I am asked frequently is, what about an upright rollator? And 9 times out of 10, the reason that people are asking me about upright rollators is because they're really either hinged forward or hunched down. So they want an upright rollator because they feel like it will help them walk with better posture. Now, for some people, it will help you walk with better posture. But for the majority of people, from what I have found, is that it doesn't actually address that issue. Hinging forward or rounding forward like this, it's not a hand issue, it's weakness in your glutes or maybe your back, maybe tightness in your hips or your pecs. And so oftentimes people will get an upright rollator and instead of walking like this, they walk like this. So it didn't fix the posture, your hands are just higher. Again, for a small group of people, it does actually help. But for the majority of people, if that's why you're using it, it likely won't improve your posture or how much you're hinging. In terms of how would you size an upright rollator to you, you want to make sure that the size of the armrest, the handles, are high enough where you can comfortably rest. Usually it's about the 90-degree mark, but you want to make sure that your shoulders don't have to hike up at all, even a centimeter. You want to make sure that your shoulders can stay low. That's going to be huge. Otherwise, you're going to get some tension and pain in your neck. Okay. Hi, Julie. I see you're from California. Thanks for joining. You said at the start that we shouldn't rely solely on the aid. I use my cane full time now. Is that bad? So you can use your mobility aid, whether it's a cane, a rollator, trekking poles. You can use it all the time. That's totally fine. And a lot of what we're talking about in terms of not becoming dependent on your aid is really specific to you and your goals. If you have a goal of not using it all the time, then that's where you would implement what we discussed about trying to take some of your weight off of the mobility aid as an exercise. And then eventually you would progress that to doing your exercises with less weight through the mobility aid. But if you don't have a goal of using your mobility aid less, then you don't have to worry about that. It's okay to use the mobility aid all the time, and it's okay to fluctuate between mobility aids, maybe a rollator today, a cane tomorrow, a wheelchair a different day. Oh, if we have time, could you share a word about forearm crutches? Yes. My first neurologist was very clear that I should wear hard sole slippers in the house. Interesting. Anything about the width of the rollator? Oh, that's a good question. When it comes to the width of the rollator, a lot of it is whatever's comfortable for you. But what you should know is that if you're going to be sitting on it, so some rollators have a seat, others don't, and it's just a basket. If it's a seat, of course, you want to be able to put the brakes on. You want to feel like you fit comfortably. So if you don't, if you feel like you gotta wiggle your way and you're pretty snug, probably too narrow, you'd want to get the wider version. But what you should know from a physical therapy point of view is that typically the wider this seat, the wider the whole frame will be, which gives you more base of support, so more balance. So if you're someone who needs a lot of support, the wider version might be a better option for you anyways, because it can give you a little bit wider, even if it's just 1 inch wider, that's still an inch wider and an inch more of support for you. Okay, any other questions? I don't see any other questions, so let's move on to the next one. Okay. Oh, you know what? I will share one more thing. So one more thing that I want to remember to tell you, there are so many different brands of rollators. This is the one that I love because it's very lightweight. But make sure that you get a rollator that is able to support the amount of weight that you need to put through it. These lightweight ones are really great for easy storage, for moving in and out of a car, even up or down stairs. But if you're someone who puts a lot of weight through your mobility aid, then a lightweight rollator could potentially make you feel a little tippy. Your rollator might actually tip from side to side. So a lighter weight one might not be the best for you. So as you're picking a rollator, just be thinking about these types of things so that you pick the one that's safest for you. Okay. All right. Just gonna see if you guys, no other questions, okay. The next mobility aid that we're going to review is a cane because, well, let me see, do I want to review this one first? Yes, we'll do this one, okay. The next mobility aid we're going to review is a cane. Now this one is a little bit different. Let me actually grab a second one that I have. We'll do this one. So there are 2 different types of canes in the sense of how do you get the right height for you. There's ones where you cannot adjust it, and then there's others where you can adjust it. So we will review both. Let's start with the one that you can't adjust. with these ones, you typically need to provide your height with or without shoes, and you're going to be making some measurements, giving it to the company, and then they send you the cane. So with that, when we're talking about height, it's the same as a rollator. Again, I'll come up a little bit closer. You want to make sure that as you drop your wrist down, it hits you about where your wrist bones are. So the way to measure this would be, and this is much easier if you have someone who can help you, but if you use your cane without shoes, then don't wear shoes for this. If you use it with shoes, do wear shoes. If you use it both, then make sure you go with a company that allows you an extension. This one is Neo Walk, and they do have an extension for when you are wearing shoes so that it can make it taller. So what you're going to do is you're going to stand up as tall as you can, with or without shoes on, and you're going to have someone get a measuring tape, measuring stick, whatever you want to use, and you're going to have them hold it or start it at your wrist bone and then drop it to the floor. And look at what that number says. That's the number that you'll give the company. It's usually, I mean, I guess it depends what country you live in, but here in the US, it usually would be the number of inches, and then you would send that in. Might be centimeters, whatever it asks for, that's what you're going to send them, that number, and that will ensure that you get the right height. Now, for any cane that does not have that feature, and you can actually adjust it yourself because it has prongs, can you see that? Prongs like that. The concept is the same, but you can adjust it yourself. So for this one, again, you're standing up, your best posture, drop your arm. This one's actually high. You see, my wrist bones are down here. This is up here. So you're gonna press the button and lower it. And a lot of this is trial and error. And again, a lot of it is just what makes you feel safe. So this hits me much better now. You'll see here my wrist bones. If it was on the outside, I'm hitting my wrist bone with it, hitting that wrist bone with it. So you would adjust based on your wrist bone. Now, same concept with the rollator, with how much weight do you want to put through it. Especially with a cane, you want to put as little weight as possible, especially with canes, because if it's slippery or wet outside, your cane can slip. And if you don't have a lot of weight through it, you likely can recover your balance on your own. If you've got a lot of weight through it, you likely will go down and fall. So the lighter weight, the better. Another thing to consider when picking a cane is the tip of the cane. So you'll see that this pink one is much wider. That's going to give you better base of support, more balance than this one. This one's pretty similar to a trekking pole, but again, just something to keep in mind as you're picking a cane. Now, in terms of how to use it, there's several ways to walk with a cane. Pick whichever one feels best for you. Try all of them. One way, and the most natural way, is to move. Well, actually, before we get there, you want to hold your cane on the opposite side of your weak leg. Now this, you might be thinking like, what is she talking about? That's crazy talk. A lot of people don't discuss this. Here's why. If this is my weak leg, and if I'm holding my cane on that side, then when I'm putting weight through my cane, I'm also putting weight through the weakest side of my body. So all of my weight right now is through the weak side of my body. Whereas if this is my weak leg still, but my cane is over here, then when my weight is through my weak leg, half of my weight or so is being transferred onto the cane. So less weight is through the weak side of my body. It's being distributed to this other side. So to recap, according to textbook and physics, the side of your body that you should hold your cane or a single trekking pole is the opposite of your weak leg. If you've been using it the other way for years, then this might feel very unstable, in which case you have two choices. Number one, just go back to what made you feel safe. But if you're committed, if you're like, no, I want to do it the right way, then practice walking with it on the other side as an exercise. Don't just go and do it out in the public or even in your home. Practice as an exercise. Now, how do you move forward with a cane? So the most natural way would be to move your cane forward at the same time as your weak leg and then step through. And then your cane and your opposite leg and then step through. So I'm going slow right now so you can see what this would look like. This is one option, okay? Another option would be cane and weak leg, step 2. Cane and weak leg, step 2. So it could look like this as well. Another option, the third option, would be cane goes first, then the opposite leg, then the other leg. Cane, opposite leg, same leg. So those are 3 different options. Choose whichever helps you feel the best, the safest, the most confident and comfortable. Okay, let me see what questions you guys have about that. When using an upright cane, how does one properly adjust the height? An upright cane, I haven't heard of an upright cane. Upright, I mean, I know upright walker and rollator, but I haven't heard of an upright cane, so I'm not sure. Okay, and then Jane, what if you, I think your question got cut off. I'll wait a bit to see if that comes in, and then we'll move on to trekking poles. Yeah, and we'll try to find one on Amazon, perfect. Okay. Jane, I didn't see your question come through yet. I'm gonna move on, but of course we'll come back and I'll answer all of your guys' questions. Okay, we put our canes back. Okay. Trekking poles typically come in a bag like this, and I wanted to keep them in their bag first so I could show you exactly what you're gonna do to make sure they're the right height for you right out of the bag. So first step, open the bag. And what you're gonna see are 2 trekking poles. I'm gonna try to not spill everything everywhere. 2 trekking poles that are going to be in their smallest form, their most squished down form. And then you're also going to see different options for the tips of what goes on the end. Typically, you'll see that it comes with this tip, which is like the typical tip. It's the one I like the most. But there are other options, such as this. And you would take this off and put this on the bottom. Actually, I think it goes this way to keep like snow out or mud out. This is another option. Put that on. And then I believe there's one other option. There's this option, which can be great for hiking. It's just got some more grooves. So again, you take that off and put this on. So most trekking poles, hiking poles, sticks, walking stick come with that. Now we've got these 2. There's 2 different ways to fit trekking poles or walking sticks to you and your body. We will review them, try them both, make sure you choose the one that you feel safest with. The first option, and the option that I most often recommend, is where you're keeping your elbow at 90 degrees, put your other fist on top of it, and this is where you'd want to hold. So you're not at 90 degrees, you're a bit higher. So let's talk about it. The way that you're going to open your trekking poles, if they are collapsible, going to open the knobs, move them down, and really it's just a little bit of trial and error. I actually don't remember what my size is, so we'll be doing this together. So 90 degrees, so I need this taller, and you can have someone help if you need it. So that looks about the right size. Yeah, this looks right. So then once you're at the right size, you're just going to close those, making sure that everything is nice and sturdy and firm and not going to collapse on you. And then you're just going to repeat the same thing on the other side. So I'll do that right now. And when we're talking about how much weight to put through your mobility aid, when specifically talking about trekking poles, It's same concept as what we've already talked about, which is only as much as you need to and not any more than that. It's so easy to put too much weight through a mobility aid, so easy. And it's not your fault. Our bodies have a mechanism where, how close did I get it? Pretty close. Our bodies have a mechanism where if we just have a single touch point, we just put too much weight through it. It's so easy to, if you're not being aware of it, it's so easy to put too much weight through. So just being aware, how much weight are you putting through? Okay, so we've got our correct sizes. Now, how do you hold on to the poles? You want to have, you're gonna have a loop, and you're going to go from under the loop, and then you're going on top. So it should look like this. The loop is right there. It's between my thumb and index finger webbing, and hold on. The reason for that is because if you lose your balance, you lose your grip, it's gonna stay with you. If you're not through the loop in that way, then when your hand releases, it's gonna fall. But here, if your hand releases, it stays with you. So that's how you want to hold on to the trekking poles. Now, how are you gonna walk with the trekking poles when they are up at this height where you're above 90 degrees? It's pretty similar to the canes, but here's what you want to be thinking about. So typically, to make walking feel the most natural, you're gonna move the right trekking pole forward at the same time as the left leg, and then the left forward at the same time as the right leg. So it's opposite arm and leg, opposite arm and leg. I'm going slow so you can see, but this would be the most natural way. This would be the way that would feel, I did the wrong one there. This would be the way that would feel like you could walk your normal speed, because it's most similar to our normal walking pattern where we'd normally be swinging our arms in that same way. So that's the most common way, but of course there's so many variations. You can move your right one forward, then your left foot, then the left trekking pole, and then the right. So you can take a pause, you can move each thing separate. You're going to want to, again, just choose what feels best for you. So this is option number one in terms of height. Now, there's a second option, so let's review that. The second option is what a lot of people use if they tend to walk a bit faster, and that is a much lower option. So right now we're at our above 90 degrees. The lower option is more down here, and they have a tendency to stay behind you, and you're kind of pushing like this. It often can be used more for exercise, like if you're out walking for exercise or on a trail or something. I'm going to lower these so it fits. But the vibe is that you're down here pushing versus up here and having that stability. So for that, we want our poles to be about here, about in alignment with our hip bones. So as of right now, these are way too long. So we're going to open the prongs. I'm just going to kind of guess here. Let's lower it to there. Okay, so this is my hip bone is about right here. So my fist is around where my hip bone is. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten that. And then let's see, let me lower to make the other one even. Okay, where's this one? All right, we're going to hold on just the same. We're coming up from underneath and attach, underneath and attach, but now we're down here. And again, the idea is that we're holding them at a backwards angle. So our fists are still in front of us, but the actual poles themselves tend to be behind us. The walking pattern is the same. It's the opposite arm and leg. Opposite arm and leg. But you'll see they're angled backwards. It's more designed to help push you. Oh, I didn't tighten them enough. They just collapsed. Make sure you tighten them enough. There we go. The idea is that they're more designed to help push you and propel you forward. It's less about balance. The first version is more to help you with stability and balance when you're walking. Whereas this one, I find, is more to help you just have a little bit of support so that you can continue to move at whatever speed you want. It's a little bit of a different goal. But again, try both and see what feels better for you. Sometimes people like this one because it looks more athletic, and that makes them feel more athletic versus more like a person with MS. At the end of the day, again, it's all about safety. So use whichever sizing feels like it's most appropriate for you. Ideally, use them as little as possible and not any more than you need to, just for safety. And what else was I going to say? Oh, walking opposite leg at the time of the opposite hand. Now, another thing to consider, you don't always need to use 2 trekking poles, in which case you would use just the one, exactly how we talked about the cane. So you'd use it on the opposite side of your weaker leg, and it would move forward at the same time as that weak leg, or forward, then your weak leg, then your stronger leg. Okay, let me see what questions you guys have. What if you're inclined to do double steps before moving the cane? Double steps. So like, trying to picture that. Cane, let me grab a cane. So like step, step, cane, that can work. So it'd be cane, step, step. Like that. If that's what you're talking about, that works. Can I adjust two canes from 2 arm crutches? Again, when we're talking about canes or arm crutches or trekking poles, a lot of it has to do with the size of the bottom. And oftentimes the size the size tip of forearm crutches is the same as a cane. The two main differences between a cane and a forearm crutch is the hand placement and the fact that with forearm crutches, you can let go and it won't fall because it's got a cuff around you. So for forearm crutches, it's like a cuff like this, and your hand angle is pretty similar to this, but you've got an extension and it holds on here. So that if you let go, it doesn't fall away from you. It's still attached to you. But again, in terms of is that safe to transition from one to the other, it should be, as long as it's a similar base. If it's not, if one is way smaller, that's not going to provide you with as much support, so that's something to keep in mind. Dion sent a link of the upright cane. Let me pull this up. Okay, so upright cane. To me, this looks like a trekking pole. See, it's even got one of the tips that we just recently looked at. Yeah, it looks like they're calling it an upright cane, but in my opinion, it's like a trekking pole. Yeah. So everything that we talked about with the trekking pole is what I would apply. What do you do if the cane is too high but is not adjustable? Is there a way to use a too tall cane? You could wear taller shoes. I have had some people who have someone in their family or friend that is skilled with tools cut canes and then put a different base on it. You can buy these bases from CVS, Walgreens, convenience stores. So you could cut it if you feel like it's just, you know, way too high. I have really bad, wait, I hope you can see the cane. Yes, I have really bad right leg spasms, I think hip flexors and knee. I currently use a zine. I actually was just able to try the zine for the first time in real life, which was super cool. I have been through every device. I want to get back to a cane or another device. You introduced the Movio walk. What is your thoughts on the device to prevent falls, but the least assistance. So if you have a zine, if people don't know what the zine is, let me pull up their site. I think it's zinego.com. Nope, that's not it. So the Zine Go is, let me get rid of this. There we go. This is a device where you can be, wow, it looks like she's running. You can stand with this device here. You can sit in it like a wheelchair. You can sit in it with it being higher so that you stay at your normal height. You can play sports with it. The idea behind it is that you've got the chair if you need it. If you're someone who doesn't ever know when you're going to need to sit down, you need a chair with you. Maybe you would normally be using a rollator, but you're putting way too much weight through the rollator. The Zine could be a good option for you. In terms of the question, which is like, what's the best device to prevent falls with the least assistance? The Zine is a great starting point because there's so much flexibility. I would use your Zine and practice standing up with your best posture as tall as you can in the Zine as an exercise. Additionally, practice standing up and the chair is, behind you, but don't sit on the chair at all. Like, make sure all of your weight is through your legs and make sure you're putting as little weight as possible through the handle part. So everything we've been talking about, especially with the rollator, is true for the Zine. That's what I would start with. In terms of exercises, oh my gosh, there's lots of exercises, like shifting your weight. Once you're putting more weight through your legs, less weight through your arms, practice shifting your weight, some staggered stance, weight shifting, things like that. But in terms of a device, it's more about how you use that device. There's no one device that's best for walking. It's going to be how you use it, how much support you need. If you've got the Zine, I think that's a great starting point. Those are the things that I would do to help the Zine with your goal. From looking at the picture of the model, it looks like a little lower than 90 degrees. Yeah, I mean, those models probably were not guided by a physical therapist. They were probably given the device and said, hey, hold this. Will we get a recording? Yes, these are always recorded, and Jennifer from MS Views and News will email them to you. It's kept on their YouTube page. What if your legs do double time, but you still find the poles very double time? What if your legs do double time, but you still find the poles very helpful in terms of balance and even being able to push off the bottom? I also like the boot looking tip to help push off. I guess I'm not sure what the question is here. At the end of the day, whatever way you need to walk with any of these devices to feel safe and steady is great. Don't feel like like you have to change the way that you walk if that doesn't feel safe and comfortable for you. This has been very helpful. Good, I'm glad. I mean that my legs move faster than my arms. Oh. If your legs are moving, I see, double time, faster. So in theory, your legs should be moving the same speed as your arms. So like, think about if you weren't using a mobility aid. It would be weird so normally, okay, let's say I'm not using mobility aid, but I'm gonna be walking fast. My arms would move at the same time as my legs, right? Like if you picture power walkers, every time a leg moves, the arms move. It's very rare to see someone without a mobility aid doing double time leg, like slower arms, faster feet. And the goal of trekking poles is to replicate or simulate normal arm swing. So again, if you feel comfortable and safe walking that way, that's fine. The way to have the best balance is to have reciprocal arm movement. So if you're walking slower, your legs, and with or without a mobility aid, your legs and your arms move slower. If you're walking faster, your legs and your arms walk faster. So again, that's theoretically, that is how we should move, but again, it's going to be dependent on you. What brand are the walking poles? This brand is called Cascade Mountain Tech. There's so many brands. I like this brand. I chose this brand because they had orange. But there's lots of brands, so see which ones you like. What about a three-wheeled rollator? For three-wheeled rollators, I recommend the same thing as the four wheels. Everything that I mentioned about that is true for three wheels. I bought trekking poles that aren't adjustable so I wouldn't have to worry about the adjustment slipping while I was walking. I've been very happy with the trekking poles that don't adjust. That's amazing, Anne. Thank you for sharing that. I actually don't know if I knew that they had ones that didn't adjust. I don't know if I knew that those existed. That's very cool. Are tri-bases better than a single bottom? Are you referring to like a small base quad cane? Oh, or maybe a cane. So there's something called a hurricane. Let me see if I can. But a hurricane has this tri-tip. And a huge perk of it is that it stays standing up. So you can let go and go to the bathroom or let go and do something and it stays standing up. It does also provide more support because, again, thinking about the base of a cane tip, that's going to be wider if there's 3 of them versus 1. So in terms of are they better, they do move a bit different. You want to make sure that as you're putting your cane down, whether it's a single tip or a tri-tip, you want to make sure that it's like this, not at an angle. So again, that's something where you could try both, see what feels safer for you. I have access to lots of bamboo sticks. I can use them as trekking poles with no hand grips. Yeah, I have, I wouldn't say a lot, but several clients who use bamboo sticks for their trekking poles. Any opinion on stand-up rollators? Yeah, so I think the stand-up rollators are like the upright rollators. We discussed those in the beginning. If you weren't on, Michael, at the end, if there's time, I can review it. But at the very least, you can go back and watch the recording for my thoughts on those. Walk. Okay. I use a single cool crutch on my left arm because I have foot drop on my right-hand side. I feel like my balance is getting worse as I lean more on my crutch. Do you have any advice? I also have increased muscle tone, so Boxia device doesn't work quite well, doesn't quite work. Balance is a whole thing. So we should have a balance. I don't know what our schedule is coming up for the next few months. I forgot, but we should have one on balance because balance is a whole separate topic. Do you have any advice? For starters, I guess my advice for today, considering it's not our main theme, but it definitely is a component of mobility aids, are the ones that I previously shared. My favorite balance exercises, there's 3. Number 1 is practice standing with your mobility aid with less weight through it and with even weight through your legs. So if you normally use a cane and your weight's over here and you put a lot of weight through it, exercise number 1 is, can you stand with even weight through your legs and less weight through your cane? And just stay here. How long can you stay here for? 5 seconds? 50? 5 minutes? What you got? And if that's not possible, then at least work on it a little bit. So instead of going like this to this, maybe you can go from here to here, just a little bit of improvement. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's exercise number 1. Once you're getting better at that, exercise number 2 is hold the cane lighter and shift your weight from one side to the other side. And then exercise number 3 is hold as little weight as possible and then forward and backwards. I like this one a lot because when we're thinking about improving our walking, which assuming you're using mobility aid to walk, then this staggered stance is the position we are in with every step. We have to be able to shift our leg forward in order to bring the back one through. So practicing this weight shifting exercise is extremely beneficial. If we can't put weight on our front leg, then we're not going to safely be able to lift this back leg and move it forward because our weight's not on this leg. We still have weight back here, and the same thing on the other side. So those are the 3 balance exercises I would recommend with or without mobility aids. So this is what an upright walker looks like. So it's the same thing, but as like general concept of a rollator, you still have the seat, the 4 wheels, the brakes, but you are putting your elbows here and holding on here, which again is why we talked about the importance of keeping your shoulders down. If your shoulders creep up towards your ears at all, that can result in a lot of neck pain and discomfort. And oftentimes what I see is that the neck pain and discomfort, or the more weight you put through a mobility aid, the more that leads to shoulder pain, elbow pain, or wrist pain. And when that pain becomes unbearable, it prevents you from walking because you can't use that mobility aid. And if you can't use that mobility aid, you can't walk safely. And that is something I don't want you to experience because it can be a downward spiral. If you can't walk, you likely aren't going to be doing walking exercises or your standing exercises, and it can be, you can feel like you're getting weaker and weaker. So if you're not there right now, let's try to prevent that and use your mobility aid as little as possible. The adjustable trekking poles are good for packing in a suitcase for flying. Yes, absolutely. Which is better, 3 or 4 wheel rollator? So the main, I don't think one is better. 4 wheel, here's the differences. 4 wheels typically are wider base, so that can help with more stability than a 3-wheeled. 4 wheels usually either have a basket and or a seat, so you can sit, which is beneficial. 3 wheels typically don't have a seat, it's just a basket. So again, if you feel like you're going to need to sit down at some point, or you at least want that option, then a 4-wheel might be better. Please answer second too tall cane question. How can you walk with a too tall cane? You would walk the same way so the question is, how can you walk with a too tall cane without modifying its height? It would be the same way. It would be, have it on your opposite side of your weak leg, moving it forward at the same time as your weaker leg. The technique would be exactly the same. It would just be too high. You'd want to make sure that since the cane is too high, your shoulder doesn't creep up. Try to keep your shoulder down. Again, we don't want that neck or shoulder pain. I practice the weight shifting with TRX and I like it. Then if it's a good day, I use mats to help me with uneven surfaces. Awesome. Yeah, standing on uneven surfaces is beneficial as well. Awesome. Anything else? That was the last question. Anything else? We've got about 4 minutes left. Anything else I can help you guys understand about mobility aids today? Whew. While we're waiting for questions to come in, I can get the link where you guys can find the recordings for all of the Moving with MS support groups. Okay, I just sent that to everyone. So these support groups are put up on the YouTube page for MS Views and News. It really varies with when they are put up. Sometimes they're put up within a week of it ending. Other times it's within a month of it ending. So keep checking back. But Jennifer from MS Views and News is really great about emailing you guys once it's available. Also, I forgot to share in the beginning, a huge thank you to MS Views and News for choosing me to be the one who leads these support groups for you guys, and also to Viatris. Viatris is the pharmaceutical company that is our supporter for this, and it's the reason we're able to make this all happen. So a huge thank you to them. I see Ann says, thanks, this is great as always. Yay, it's good to see you. I know I can't see you, but it's good to have you here, Ann. Dion says, thank you. You're welcome, Dion. What is TRX? TRX, let me share my screen with you. TRX is a, for lack of better words, strap that you can use to exercise with. So it looks like this, and you attach it, I I actually don't know anyone who uses it at home, but you can attach it to like a door frame. You can put it over a bar or something, but you can use it, oh, apparently you can use it around a tree. You use it for upper body or lower body. There's lots of different ways, like body weight exercises. So you can do push-ups, pull-ups, squats, stretching. Yeah, it's called TRX. Thanks for the information and help. I'm going to try hiking again hiking again this summer with trekking poles. I was the cane guy from earlier. Awesome. I'm excited to hear that, Charles. Judy says, thanks. Jane, how is your big baby girl? She's good. Thank you for asking. She just turned 15 months. It's just flying by, but it's really good. She's such a sweetheart. She's very spunky. She's got a spunky personality. How do you know when you need a mobility aid? Great question. You'll know you'll need a mobility aid if a few things are happening. If number one, you feel like you need one, like if you feel off balance, for some people, this doesn't happen for everyone, but some people will feel like, geez, I think I might need one. I'm tripping a bit more. I'm feeling unsteady. Or another thing that could be an indicator is if you're reaching for things or touching things. If as you're walking, you're touching walls or furniture or people, and without touching that, you can't walk as safely or you're nervous, that's a sign a mobility aid could help. Again, when you're starting with mobility aids, practice using it as lightly as possible. Be aware of that. If you're not aware of it, the majority of us use it too much. It's just subconsciously, and then you're more likely to become dependent on it. But if you're tripping more, if you feel more off balance, if you're scuffing your foot more, if you're touching things to help you feel more safe when you're walking, those are all some good signs that you might need a mobility aid. And a really great, in my opinion, but you guys let me know, a really great starter mobility aid could be either a collapsible trekking pole or a collapsible cane, because they're collapsible. So often I'll have people just starting to use mobility aids and they'll just collapse it and put it in their purse or their bag or somewhere. And then if they feel like they need it and it's the middle of the day, they've got it. If they don't need it, they don't pull it out, but it's there if you need it. Thank you so much. You've really lifted my spirit since my relapse. Oh, I'm so great, Nikki. That's so great. Far more than any of my medical team. I'm happy to hear that. I've been helpful. I'm sorry to hear, though, that your medical team hasn't been as helpful. That TRX equipment looks like something straight out of Bob and Brad. Those are great guys, yeah. Follow up when to transition from a cane to a rollator. Great question. When to transition from one to the other? Kind of similar. So if you're using a cane and you're feeling like, I don't feel steady, like my cane feels like I'm putting way too much weight through my cane. My hand or arm or cane feels wobbly because I'm using it too much. I'm feeling unsteady. That might be when you want to transition from a cane to maybe 2 canes or 2 trekking poles, so something on both sides of your body, 2 forearm crutches, or a rollator. My PT, oh, Frank says thanks. You're welcome, Frank. My PT told me because of my level to use my rollator as much as possible, and if not able, then I use my forearm crutches. The reason for the slippers is to avoid foreign objects with neuropathy. That's very valid. That's great. How do I lock my rollator? Are there brakes, there are brakes, but I have to hold them. So it depends what type of rollator you have. For most rollators, you can squeeze them. So for this one, I'm just lifting it up so you can see. Let me back up here. Okay, so for this one, if I squeeze, the brakes are on. If I let go, they're off. If I push down, they're on. So for the most part, if your rollator, if you squeeze and it turns them on, if you push down, usually it does push them on again, but then your hands are free and the brakes are still on. Most rollators are that way. If that doesn't work for you, I would Google it, because rollators should always have brakes that you can put on without squeezing. All right, a little over, but we did it. Awesome. Oh, one other question just came in. I have found that there is a learning curve in how to have them such as having trekking poles in a bag on my shoulder is just one more thing to manage. But I do generally appreciate the trekking poles when walking on uneven surfaces. Yeah, a lot of this is trial and error. So hopefully you can use what you learned today as guidance. Try it out, see what feels best for you, and then make adjustments as needed. Again, the number one goal is safety, so start here and then use whatever you feel best for you as exercise. Practice walking with a mobility aid, using the correct technique or whichever technique you land on as an exercise. Okay, that's all. I could talk to you guys for hours, but I'll leave you with that. Thank you again to MSVs and News and Viatris, and of course to all of you guys for showing up live and participating, asking questions. You guys have asked some great questions. So I will talk to you next month, and I'll see you soon. Have a good rest of your day.